Hi all, just thought I'd say hi.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Give it 1 or 2 more minutes. See what other folks join. Hey, Mira.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Morning.
Okay, let's just go ahead and get started. Uh, Happy almost summer, folks. I know here in the Willamette Valley, it's been a pretty rainy week and weekend, but I hope everyone's month is going okay. I just want to quickly go over the agenda and then we'll get started. We'll do some welcome and introductions, get a little update on this session that ends in about a month. Too many other updates folks have, EJ updates, and then we'll sort of go into some agency announcements if there's any, an update on a letter, some community feedback, and then we'll close out with some remarks. So we'll start off with intros. Folks can do their name, pronouns, uh, and where they're living, any organizational affiliation. My name is Joel, he, him, his, Executive Director of the Oregon Just Transition Alliance, and I'm down here in Eugene, Oregon, and I'll pass it to Bob.
Good morning. He, him, his, Bob Collin, author, retired professor. I'm an outdoor cat, so I don't really have an organizational affiliation. But welcome everyone, including the participants. I'll pass it on to Valentine. If he's off his mute, always connecting. Well, I'll pass it on to Quinn.
Good morning. My name is Quinn Reed. My pronouns are she, hers. I am in rainy Portland, and I am the Oregon Policy Director for the Center for Biological Diversity. Looks like Valentina is still connecting, so I'll pass it on to Jim.
I'm Jim Kreider, he, him. I am in the middle of a cloud in eastern Oregon. I went in to take a shower earlier and I walked out and I'm in a total fog bank. I don't know what happened to the day, but I'm in lovely, rainy eastern Oregon and I pounded posts over the weekend and got a bunch of plants in. So now I'm in recovery mode. Don't pound fence posts when you're over 60.
That's right.
So, Valentine, I'll hand off to you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My apologies for jumping in late. Was there a prompt question?
Um,
It looks like it was just introductions and pronouns. So
Okay,
name,
perfect.
Pronouns and organization that you're
Perfect.
representing.
Thank you. Valentin Sanchez with the Oregon Law Center, pronouns he, him, él. And Bob, have you gone, Bob?
yes, I'm done.
How about Courtney?
Hey, I'm Courtney and she, her, hers, and I'm with the governor's office here in Salem. And Amira, on to you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Amira Streeter, she, her pronouns. I'm the Natural Resource Policy Advisor and from the governor's office and liaison to the Environmental Justice Task Force. Passing it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Amira. And if folks who are attendees, they want to drop in the chat some intros as well, feel free to do so in the chat. Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I think that's everyone. We'll start off with some legislative updates.
Great. So I will go ahead and share my screen. I have been tracking a lot of the bills that are involved with environmental justice, so you all can see that. And then we can kind of go through each one. And please feel free to ask questions as we go through this, especially around like legislative processes and where we are. So we are almost at the tail end of legislative session. We have about a month or maybe 6 weeks left in the legislative session this year. Things are moving pretty smoothly. We had the state revenue forecast come out last week on May 19th. So things are going to start rolling as the committees start to determine how much funding to provide to policy bills, state agencies, and other necessary items, including figuring out how to spend the federal dollars with the American Rescue Plan funding and possibly some other federal funding that's coming down the pike. Yeah, so we have Resolution 17 or SCR 17. This is the resolution that called out for the principles of environmental justice. It's very exciting to see this bill move forward. It's in House Energy and Environment and scheduled for a work session on the 26th. Senate Bill 286A is the bill that renames the Environmental Justice Task Force to Environmental Justice Council, also moving that to DEQ and doing a whole bunch of other things. That bill is still in the Joint Ways and Means, waiting to be assigned to the Subcommittee on Natural Resources. Quite a few of these are in revenue. So House Bill 2021, I think, is still in House Revenue. There may have been some movement on this past week that I'm not sure about. That is the bill that's 100% clean energy and put together by a lot of our community partners. House Bill 2475 is one of the governor's bills around energy and authorizing the Public Utility Commission to consider energy burdens for underserved communities and inequities. This bill has been signed by both chambers, both the speaker and the president, and has been sent off to the governor. It might be signed right now, but yeah, that bill is basically passed. House Bill 2488A is also in Joint Ways and Means. This is the bill that requires land use planning to change its goals to consider environmental justice and equity. And then there are a few other bills that relate to environmental justice in some capacity. These bills are also in Joint Ways and Means right now and just waiting to be assigned a dollar amount. Let's see. Yes, House Bill 2520 relates to the adoption of energy policy within land use planning goals, mostly around solar and renewable energy sources. House Bill 2722 also deals with energy and putting best practices in to fight wildfires. House Bill 2842, this is the Healthy Homes Bill. And it would provide assistance grants for financial assistance for low-income households and landlords alike. And then the last bill on here also has to do with energy, House Bill 3141 A. And I will pause there and see if there are any questions or any bills that folks want to like continue tracking or speak about. And I will stop sharing my screen. I'm not seeing any questions or oh, go ahead, Bob.
The convening of workshops for wildlife best practices, that's sort of vague. That can be an agency meeting in Salem, or that can be a BIPOC community near a fire zone, as many Latino communities were. So I want to make sure that there's an inclusionary focus on that convening of workshops so that local communities, especially poor communities and people of color, can have a way to speak for themselves in terms of that. And in terms of indigenous fire practices, when they're convening these things, I would like to have that viewpoint incorporated locally where the fires occurred and where those fire practices have occurred long before their settlement. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, and then another bill that isn't necessarily environmental justice related that I saw get asked about in the chat is Senate Bill 289, which is the Hate in the Outdoors bill. It is scheduled for a work session today at 1. So fingers crossed that that gets through its in-house judiciary. Quinn.
I was just curious, in looking through this list of bills, what's your sense of what needs the most help right now? You know, where are some places where some directed advocacy would be useful?
That is a great question. I would say all the bills that are within Joint Ways and Means right now could probably use help in advocating for those. As I mentioned, we have a better understanding of what the state revenue budget is. And my understanding is that those discussions are still taking place internally between the legislature, and I would just encourage folks to advocate for those bills directly to the committee chairs and getting in front of them to try to like understand what they're thinking and make that request. Oh, Bob.
Am I off mute?
Yes.
How much, what's the most expensive bill in front of them from an EJ bill? What's the most, and what's the overall cost if we got everything we wanted? If you could just, if there's a way to guesstimate that.
Yeah, that is a really good question. And I unfortunately would not be able to answer it because I'm not 100% sure for all the bills what the dollar amount is.
Right.
I know for the Office of Environmental Justice bill, that comes with a request of 3 million. And then the land use planning bill comes with a request of 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure about the others. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I'm just curious. It's a dynamic situation and it's hard to judge right now, but I think I'm trying to think in their heads about cost allocation, and I want to know how expensive we are. And we're a good deal. So I just want to make sure we say that. Thank you.
Totally agree. And I was trying to drop the document that I just shared in the chat for all of you to take home. but it's not letting me do that on the Zoom for some reason. So I'll just follow up with the email.
Could you screen them one more time, Amira?
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
There you go. Sorry, computer's being slow.
It's okay. So just initial thoughts. I know right now, as Amir mentioned, there's a lot of stuff happening right now on Joint Ways and Means, and there's things are going to happen pretty fast the next month or so. So just wanted to again thank you, Amir, for convening us last week about the EJ bill. So for the folks that have capacity, now would be the time to try and get either send an email or make a phone call or try and set up a meeting with your legislator or any legislators you have a relationship with, especially if they are in the Joint Ways and Means Committee. Everyone right now wants to get their bill passed, and so anything that's sitting in Joint Ways and Means is there's a lot of noise happening. So we really got to make sure that we're also advocating for what we want. So I myself will be having some meetings the next few weeks with some Joint Ways and Means folks. But yeah, I would highly recommend you all begin reaching out to your legislators and making sure that they know about this list of bills that Amir is going to send us, and let them know that it's important for them to pass. And very excited about 2475, the Oregon Clean Energy Opportunity Campaign, which I've been a part of. Is its first bill. So yeah, really exciting to have finally a low income utility rate for Oregonians, especially given the fact that this pandemic has been so devastating on a lot of Oregon families. So that'll be a big relief for folks, making sure that their homes are nice and warm and nice and cool in the summertime. So I'm very excited about those bills. And Amira, please let us know. I know that you shared out a doc with us with some of the potential appointments we can make for the EJ Council bill. But I don't think everyone attended that meeting present. So it'd be great if you could just give us a quick recap on that bill and some of what we spoke about last week.
Sure. So Senate Bill 286, as I mentioned, would need a $3 million ask. And I convened a group, some EJTF members. I don't think everyone was able to attend, and some advocate groups who I know have been interested in this bill in the past, or at least a concept in the past, and just trying to get their support and willingness to advocate for the bill with the Ways and Means Committee members. And that seems to be going okay. It is really difficult to try to schedule that time, but yeah, we're slowly making our way through some committee members.
So I think Quinn, you were there last week, yeah, and I think the only person there's some I think most of the folks on this call were on that call last week. But yeah, I would recommend. I think Amira, did you send that out to the whole JTF, that Excel, that spreadsheet of the assignments?
I did not. I just sent it out to everyone who
attended,
but I can definitely share it with.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could just follow up and send folks out the. Well, I asked. Amir and I talked about. We talked about the meeting creating a spreadsheet with some assignments and some legislators, and folks can put in their name if they have a relationship or like to take a meeting with that specific legislator, specifically for the EJ Council bill. And so for those of you who weren't on the call last week, it'd be great if you could put your name in there so that if and when it does get scheduled, you make sure that you're in the room as well. So it's go time, folks. We got like 31 days.
It's the final countdown.
Any other thoughts? Questions? This isn't a directly sort of like, it's EJ adjacent, I would say, Amira, but I'm curious if you could talk to us a little bit about some of the bills that the Racial Justice Council put forward. I know that's probably not in this doc, but I'm just curious if you had any insight on some of those bills.
Yes. Do you mean the Racial Justice Council overall or the Environmental Equity Committee?
Either one. Just what
Okay.
you're keeping a track of or know about.
Yes. So there are actually quite a few Racial Justice Council bills that are being advocated for right now. I think the Healthcare Committee that I've also been helping with has a good handful of bills, like in the tens. So I will just talk about the environmental equity bills. Let's see, get that up too. And we are in really good shape on all of these, actually. So this is a list of the bills that we're tracking right now. So we already talked about Senate Bill 286, which is in Ways and Means. Most of these are in Ways and Means right now. House Bill 2171, that's the Outdoor Recreation for All bill or omnibus bill. That has a dollar amount attached to it for 1 million, which is why it's in Ways and Means. We have House Bill 3293, which is the Water Vision bill. That got through and got passed, but I think it's in Ways and Means right now to figure out the dollar amount associated with it. Also with the wildfire bill, Senate Bill 762. And then I already talked about Senate Bill 289 and House Bill 2475. I guess like off of this list, if there's an opportunity to advocate for something, probably House Bill 2171, House Bill 3293, and Senate Bill 762 would probably be the best places to start. Last time I checked on the bills, there were still conversations happening, so I'm not going to be able to help right now with what's in the bill, within those bills, but just let me know if you need help siphoning through that. For the Racial Justice Council, we also have housing, criminal justice reform, economic opportunity and education, and also health, which I already talked about. As I mentioned, they all have a lot of bills that they are working for and advocating on, but they are also in Ways and Means.
Great. Any questions from folks on these bills? Okay, sweet. Thanks, Amira. Do you know if the wildfire omnibus bill is related at all to any of the federal bills that our congressmen are putting forward?
That is a really great question. I don't know if I'm sure there are conversations happening right now to make those fit, especially with the infrastructure bills in the American Rescue Plan. There's probably an opportunity to either get workforce development wrapped up into that bill, or defensible space development when it comes to infrastructure.
Great, that's really helpful. Any other folks have questions or thoughts about EJ bills this session, or any ones that they know about that we didn't see on this list? Okay, sweet. Not related to Oregon, but I do want to just give a quick shout out to Washington State. I know they've been passing some really incredible, really exciting bills. Very jealous. I know they passed this overtime bill for farm workers up in Washington. I know we had a similar bill that didn't quite pass this session, but hopefully in future sessions we can catch up to our big brothers up north. Okay. Sweet. Let's go on to some hot topics. So we've got a few things on here. I'm curious, since I see some agency folks on the line, if you all have any announcements or updates that you'd like to provide to the task force, please raise your hand or put a comment in the chat, and we'd love to hear from you briefly. Okay, looks like we've got a raised hand here. Let's start with Cheryl, the EPA.
Let me unmute. Sorry about that. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Thank you. And I'll maybe share just a little bit there. Okay. Just a quick announcement. EPA has several funding solicitations that are out. Two of those are environmental justice funding. One of those is the Environmental Justice Small Grant that you may be aware of, that usually comes out every other year. And this year we have opened both the Environmental Justice Small Grant and the Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem Solving. Announcements have been out for a few months now, and both of those solicitations will close June 1st at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. So with us being on the West Coast, that puts us at 9 o'clock, a little before 9, that those solicitations will close. This year, the Environmental Justice Small Grants is up to 70,000. And there's an expectation to award at least 4 within the region 10, and the environmental justice collaborative problem solving, which is usually 120,000, is up to 150,000 this year, and that requires partnerships. Well, actually, both of them require partnerships. You're not able to apply for both of them since they're both out at the same time. An organization does need to look at which one would be most appropriate for their organization and partners. But just to let you know that those close on June 1st of this year. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's been busy, as you know. Everything is EJ from every direction and covering all 4 states. It's been a while, but glad to see you guys going.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it. I see Sadie on here. So you want to go next?
Thank you, Chair Aboa and committee members. For the record, I don't know if we do that here, but Sadie Carney with the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And I just wanted to report to this group in the past, and I don't know how many currently seated committee members will remember this, but we have talked about the Goal 1 Advisory Committee to our commission, which is Goal 1 is citizen involvement. And the legislation that you were just discussing a few moments ago, House Bill 2488, closely implicates Goal 1 for the department because it is suggesting a rewrite, including we hope the title of the goal itself to change it to something like community engagement or community involvement, because citizen has become an outdated and troublesome term. But I wanted to report to this group that we just recruited, we had a bylaws shift for our CIAC that was approved on Friday by the commission that allows us to expand the number of members in that group to 10 from 8. It includes 1 seat that is slated for the future 6th congressional district for the state of Oregon, and an additional at-large seat. And we used the governor's equity framework and the outlining of priority populations that was used in Executive Order 2004 to conduct our recruitment. And we were able to meet all of our inclusion targets with the exception of a member representing populations under 25. So this is a huge win and like a great diversification and recruitment for our group. So we are really excited to have them on board and to get them working with us. And of course, if House Bill 2488 does pass, they will be very much included in the work that follows regarding the rewrite of Goal 1, as I would imagine this group will probably have some involvement in that effort. But I just wanted to report on that. Because we're so pumped about our new members, and I know that this group pays attention to the work of that group and vice versa. So thanks very much for your time. End of my report.
Thanks so much, Sadie. Appreciate it. Isel, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you very much, Joel. Again, my name is Ezel Watson. I'm the director of the DEI for the Public Utilities Commission. This is an update about the moratorium on disconnects relative to consumer investor-owned utilities. We had a special public meeting last week, and as a result, we are identifying the moratorium is scheduled to end, of course, at the end of June, essentially. And what as a result of the special public meeting, the commissioners have agreed to look for groups of customers who should still remain immune to disconnects. So I think that was a big win, because the moratorium was a blanket moratorium on disconnecting anyone, and our commissioners are seeking to center communities who are most impacted by disconnects. Additionally, as a part of this special public meeting and the staff recommendation that was accepted, I have been directed to convene a group to analyze and discuss approaches to arrearage management, including but not limited to alternatives to disconnections in a post-moratorium period. I think that because we have additional legislative authority under 2475, this may be a little bit easier to accomplish, but we are going to be looking for something in the near term, to help stabilize customers who have been impacted by large arrearage bills. And we know that that is typically our vulnerable and marginalized communities because they live in substandard housing a lot and have higher burden relative to energy. So that was just a quick update. And if there are groups that are looking to engage in advocacy, there will be a group of external stakeholders that I am convening, hopefully to come up with a couple of recommendations to send back to our commissioners in December. This concludes the update. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anyone on the task force have questions for Cheryl, Sadie, or Ezel?
There's just one thing I'd want to point out about the disconnects is that the COUs, the citizen-owned utilities, are not impacted. Our co-op out here cut people off middle of April. So, so again, 25% of our populations are not covered by the Oregon Public Utility Commission. So therefore, they do not get necessarily the same protections and benefits. I'm working on that out here. We tried to run people for the board of directors of the Oregon Trail Electric Cooperative, but we were unsuccessful. But in order to look for that type of reform in the electric industry, we've got to be more thoughtful about the COUs and how to involve them. But just thought I'd share that with everybody.
Definitely noted, Jim. We appreciate you, and that's discussion that I have seen that type of discussion at within the PUC. The biggest rub for us is how do we compel, consumer-owned utilities who are not subject to our regulatory standards to engage in dialogue with us and to follow our suggestions. So I welcome any feedback that we maybe can have offline about what things we can do at the PUC to help our ratepayers who pay to consumer-owned utilities.
I'll most definitely reach out to you in the coming week or so to discuss this. It's a big nut to crack, and I just don't have enough bandwidth at this point in time, but it's always good to talk about it and get some strategies going. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you all. I think next we want to have a quick conversation about the OPRD community feedback. So yeah, this is just a little bit of conversation around Parks and Rec, but Amira, you want to kick us off here?
Sure. I don't see the original person who sent this from Parks, but if there is a Parks representative here today, by all means, raise your hand and we can pull you into the panelist mode if you want to add in more. So similar to what Cheryl was sharing in terms of ways for the EJTF to engage, Oregon State Parks is actually looking for community feedback on their state rules for how to engage communities better. Let's see, I can probably share this. This feedback is also due by June 1st. OPRD is asking for feedback from community groups that have been underrepresented in state parks in trying to understand how to either remove or reduce barriers for accessibility in state parks. Yeah, I think it would be really useful if EJTF members are interested in giving your perspective on this or sharing with other organizations that you may know. Yeah, to give like input and feedback on this. State Parks has started to have studies around providing better accessibility to underrepresented, underserved communities, including like the elderly and Hispanic and Latinx communities. And I think this is just expanding on their work that they're doing there.
Is anyone from Oregon State Parks on the line right now? I know, I think it was Jeremy Starr sent this request, but I don't see them on here. Anyone have any initial thoughts on this?
I see a question in the chat from Bob about a bias hotline. So you can report incidences on the spot. And yes, there is a hotline for harassment and bias if you encounter that in a state park. Yeah.
And that would be good to highly publicize, big letters, different languages, distributed to the communities, distributed to community schools. I think that would go a long way to deter the type of behavior we've heard about in Lincoln City. Some of us probably have experienced, and those of us that don't go to places because we're afraid of that, we're affected by that too. So if that hotline number, there are many times we could have used that hotline number. So that would be something I'd like to get in the record, and if you could pull it up and share it with the group, that'd be great. If not, but that's a very good deterrent. Thank you.
Excellent suggestion. Quinn, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and I apologize if this is just a matter of me not being able to read fast enough. So is this feedback to inform future rulemaking, or is there current rulemaking underway? That was a little bit unclear to me.
I thought I saw in the text that you share, Maria, that it said proposed rules. So it sounds like there are proposed rule languages already. And I think the comments would be geared towards those proposed rules. And I guess my only comment would be, or I hope that they have engaged farmers, because I think every year, we received approximately 8,000 to 10,000 migrant farm workers. And so I'm sure they would be able to provide valuable input of how our local and state parks can be utilized in a safe manner by our migrant farm workers that come up every summer to pick our vegetables and fruits.
If I could just maybe add a little something, it's kind of not in our wheelhouse because it's a federal issue, but a lot of this occurs on federal lands. And I know that out here in Eastern Oregon, when we get into the mushroom picking season and things of that nature, we do have conflicts in the woods over permits, and weapons have been used in the past to protect somebody's turf. And state parks is a good start, but I think the federal group, the Forest Service, the BLM, that's the majority of the land in Eastern Oregon where we tend to run into some of these problems. I don't know what the solution is, but maybe we could think of some way to leverage the state park comments towards the feds and the BLM.
Appreciate that comment, Jim. Yeah, no, I when I was on the board of the Northwest Forest Worker Center, I know how tough and how interesting things get amongst some of the Latinx immigrant mushroom pickers, and then there's some of the tribes, and then of course a lot of Hmong folks and Vietnamese folks that also go out and mushroom pick, and especially given this really historic wildfire season, it's going to get pretty bad. And you're right, Jim. I know that there has been violence and gunplay out in the woods. So it's a really great point. Anyone else have any thoughts about this before I move on? I'm just excited they're doing it. I think Parks and Rec and a lot of Oregon's natural areas are places in which a lot of families, especially families in Oregon that don't have a ton of disposable income, have used public spaces for a long time to get out of their homes and get some nature and provide their families with an opportunity to recreate, especially since they can't afford to maybe travel farther or get on hop on a plane. So really excited to see Parks and Rec really take into consideration how people are using their spaces. So that's really exciting. Okay. In that case, it's 10:47. I think we have time maybe for some public comment if there's someone on the line that would like to provide public comment. Just type it into the chat and we'll bring you in. Okay, I don't see anyone hopping on. So in that case, we'll do some closing comments and updates from EJTF members. So if you all want to unmute and give us an update if you have one, or just provide some closing comments, and maybe we'll get out of here a little early. So whoever wants to start, go ahead.
You're killing me. I'll let you go. I have one comment. Thank you, everyone. Jim, I didn't mean to cut you off. We were both impatient to get out of here. On this is way to hit it this next couple of weeks. I really appreciate Amir and Joel's really focusing in on that. Sorry I missed that meeting, but you're absolutely right. This can make or break. This can make a good budget or a bad budget. So I appreciate that. And both of you. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say.
And I guess I just wanted to share some quick information that the Oregon Department of Energy has lost another case before the Oregon Supreme Court about doing amendments to their site certificates. There's been a series of environmental groups that have been litigating how the staff is interpreting their rules to allow site certificates to be extended without going through a public process. They have a Part A and a Part B. Well, Friends of the Columbia Gorge and others 3 times in the past year have gone to the Oregon Supreme Court and have won each time. So there's a lot of question about public access to the decision-making and to the Energy Facility Siting Council. So I just kind of wanted to give folks a little heads up on that. That's a subject that we've been following closely. Transmission is coming. Siting of transmission in the state is going to become a bigger issue. And it's kind of important to have the siting agency working on a level playing field. So if anybody's interested, I can send you those cases if you have nothing else to read. Thanks.
And just very quickly, I hope that the wildfire smoke and the heat bills will continue to move forward so that we can adequately protect farm workers. I also want to thank all of you who have been involved in the legislative effort. I know it's a humongous amount of work that has been put into that effort, so I want to thank you all for that.
Thanks, Valentine. Julio or Quinn, y'all want to go?
This is Hui here. Not much to add, but I do thank folks that joined the call. Yeah.
And from my end, thank you to everyone. And I'm sort of excited and also relieved that we're at this last minute legislative scramble of the session. So I know there's still this one last big push, but I'm kind of excited to get to it and do as much as we possibly can, and then think about other things.
Thanks, y'all. And I know we have David from ODOT here. David, you want to give us a quick update or public comment?
Well, I was just going to add on to the comment about the parks situation that ODOT is through our Office of Civil Rights and the ADA program, all regularly in touch with parks around access issues. So that I noticed on the public comment piece, they're also talking about families who have members who use mobility devices, and that's a growing area for attention both for parks and ODOT, particularly recognizing we have pioneers in the state who are using non-traditional devices for their mobility support. So not just your typical wheelchair or Jazzy, but three-wheeled bicycles and hiking poles and all sorts of things. So just really wanted to give a kudos kind of shout out to parks for thinking about that. And the other piece that springboards from that was, I think it was Bob's comment about using a bias hotline for those federal areas. ODOT does operate a bias hotline, an 855 toll-free number. And so when we receive complaints about discrimination concerns related to that come in through our hotline, we discern, is it on the state highway system? Is it a local jurisdiction, or is it a federal highway issue? And we route those concerns as appropriate. And additionally, if we receive comments that aren't about the transportation system, but for example, are about access to parks at around either a Title VI Civil Rights Act concern of discrimination or an ADA barrier or lack of access concern, we route those to our partners in those various state agencies where we've made a connection point. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Amira, do you want to give any closing comments?
I don't have much to say. I just want to thank everyone for giving their time and energy this morning. I so appreciate meeting with all of you and seeing you. You're doing incredible work, and I think it's amazing to have this group together to keep promoting and pushing for environmental justice. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Amira, for putting this together. Thank you all for joining a meeting. I know that things are really hectic now with legislative session, and the fact that we are still, I remind you, we are still on an ongoing global pandemic. I know that we're getting vaccinated and things are getting a little less intense, but still I'd like to just remind folks that we are not working from home. We are working in the middle of a global pandemic. So be gentle on yourselves, keep up the good fight, and I will see you all very soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all very much.